Okay, hi, this is Ron with Mobile Fix Automotive coming to you with another quick, helpful video. Today we're going to be reviewing misfires on a 2008 Ford F-150 Triton motor. This is a 4.6 liter that's in here. This particular thing that I'm going to show you is basically will cover most of the Triton motors as far as misfires, all the way back to the early ones. Although they've changed the intake manifolds over the years, the 4.6 and the 5.4 Triton motors, I see this a lot, and I don't know if anybody else has done a video on it, but I'm going to go ahead and do one because it's just going to be really quick. We're going to be to the point on this. Coil packs go bad on these engines an awful lot. There's no question about that. But there are cases where the coil packs are going bad for a reason. And this video is for those of you that have changed coil packs over and over, swapped them, and still keep getting the same misfire on the same cylinders, but you have good compression. Of course, if you know you have good compression, then what I'm going to show you to look for, you would have already have known. But so let me get to it real quick. So here we have a 2008 4.6 liter engine once again, and the customer brought it in for P0300 code. It also had a P0307 and a P0305. The P0300 code is random cylinder misfire, which basically means the computer detected a misfire, but it doesn't know specifically what cylinder. That's pretty common on the Triton because there's a couple of pistons that literally the spark plug fires one after the other so close that the computer really has a hard time picking up which one didn't contribute to the cycle. On this one, the side that the gasket went bad on, the P0305 is a misfire on cylinder 5, and the 307 is a misfire on cylinder 7. So basically the easiest way to figure these out is P0300 is random cylinder misfire, which means any or all cylinders, and then 301 is cylinder number 1, and then on and on. So 303 would be cylinder 3, 306 would be cylinder 6, etc., etc. This is a really good one for me to shoot the video on because the camera is going to pick up exactly where the leak is. But one of the things you're going to want to look for if you're fighting a misfire, obviously you're going to go into your scanner. If you have one, you're going to look at your PID list, and you're going to see which cylinders are actively misfiring. This particular case, we're not going to look at the scanner today. All cylinders are misfiring. 6 of the 8 cylinders were double-digit misfires. It's not uncommon to have the Triton motor, if you have a good scanner, I run a Snap-on scanner, but any scanner that will do a PID list readout that shows you what's actually going on, not just the codes. If you see 1 or 2 misfires per cycle, that's not really a major issue, especially on the higher mileage engines. But if you see misfires 12, 15, 20, 30 misfires per cycle, that's a cylinder that's down. It's not firing. So here's what you're going to look for really quick. Okay, guys? Okay, so here's what's really common. It's really, I'll see if I can get a good zoom in on this for you. There we go. Okay, this is the intake manifold gasket crossover tube for the thermostat housing. This gasket goes out pretty often on these motors, and it leaks coolant. Now this one you can see, I call it the chia pet, but you can see the crustaceans from the coolant. This runs a Ford Gold coolant, and it's really similar in like Dexcool from GM, where it's got an ability to just turn to this white phosphorus crunchy looking stuff. And so when you have a leak, if it's leaking for a long period of time, this white stuff will actually build up around the leak, and you know there's a leak. But let me explain to you what's happening with this engine. Okay, this gasket's not only leaking from the front right here where you see it, but it's also leaking on the back side. And here's your coil pack. This coil pack I've already replaced just to do diagnostics on the engine. But what ends up happening is coolant will come out, and you can see the crustaceans in the back behind this coil pack. As a matter of fact, give me a second, I'll pop this coil off real quick and show you. Let go. There we go. Okay, you see all the crustaceans back here? Okay, this is all coolant that has leaked back here. Well, what happens and what you're going to look for when you pull your coil packs, if you have a misfire, is you're going to look down inside the spark plug hole, and you're going to look for a puddle of coolant or water. If you pressure wash your engines with a high pressure washer, you can do this to yourself without having an intake manifold gasket leak, simply because the high pressure water will get down in these holes. When it gets down in the spark plug hole, it shorts out the spark plug, the coil, and this is the coil for the 2-valve Triton. Okay, basically the spark from this, when the computer collapses this coil, the spark is going to choose the path of least resistance. So if the spark plug electrode is the easiest thing for it to fire, it is going to fire that. This is just trying to help you guys out if you guys have stubborn misfires. Let me turn this thing back around real quick so you don't have to keep staring at a hole. The coolant, the way it runs down the intake manifolds when these gaskets leak, will get down into each one of these spark plug holes, and this one's doing it on both sides. It's a little bit harder to see on the passenger side, so I'm not going to try to waste video time shooting it. This side's very apparent. You guys saw the crustaceans. To fix this leak, the gasket that's leaking is not the main intake manifold gasket. It is a spacer gasket between the thermostat housing and the manifold itself. And unfortunately, you know, I have to pick on engineers here because engineers are not always the brightest tools in the shed. They could have easily put the bolts from the top down so that this could be replaced in the vehicle without pulling the manifold, but oh no. We have to make it so that, well, not we, the engineers have to make it so that you have to pull the manifold off of this engine, flip it upside down, and that crossover tube with both of those seals actually have to be replaced with the manifold off the engine. Okay, and so this gasket right here, this is the crossover tube gasket on the thermostat side. This is what actually goes bad. Is if you see this little rubber seal right here, you can, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but let me see if I can zoom in on it. Come on, give me a better zoom. There we go. Okay, you see how it sticks out past the plastic? So when you tighten down the two housings, that seals all that holds water into the engine. This rubber deteriorates with age and with heat cycles, and that's what actually ends up leaking. Now, I have seen a couple of intake manifolds where the manifolds have deteriorated and cracked out, and I've had to fix them with epoxy, but generally, as long as the main seal is good, you can usually get away with reusing it without having to tell the customer that they have to replace a very expensive intake manifold. And then this is the gasket for the spacer on the other side. These are called crossover tube gaskets. Okay, and then the main intake manifold gaskets is basically this right here. It's plastic with rubber inlaid into it for a seal. They're actually a really cool gasket. They're easy and user-friendly for the mechanics to work with, but depending on the application, they don't last a whole long time. And then on this engine, I'm putting in brand new Motorcraft spark plugs, all 8 of them, and then I'm gonna be replacing all 8 coil packs. So in most of my videos you hear me talk about, I like to use factory OEM parts. These are Denso coils. According to the research I did, Denso was one of the manufacturers for Ford on their coils. Ford just put their names on it. I don't know if that's true, but I've been using these Denso coil packs for, oh man, I don't know, probably 7-8 years that I know of, and I've never had to change one under warranty. And that's the kind of service I try to give my customers, is good quality that is going to last. So with all that, try not to bore you to death, but if you're facing misfire, check underneath your coil packs for fluid, whether it's just plain water from going through a puddle, or most likely it'll be pressure washing and or these intake manifold gaskets leaking, because they will leak. And there have been engines where I've seen the intake manifold gasket leak and only fill the plug hole on the back, the number 8 cylinder or the number 7 cylinder, or on the passenger side, which is the number 4 cylinder. So somebody just drove by in a diesel, and not put coolant in the 2 front cylinders. So don't just yank the 2 front plugs and look for coolant. Make sure you check all of them and make sure there's nothing in there. If you pull the coil pack and you see fluid in there, as long as it's not engine oil, which is a whole different deal, just take an air blower and just blow it out. Blow it out till it's nice and dry, and then put the coil pack back in there, and your misfire should go away. If you have any questions, my phone number was on the beginning of the video, and hopefully this will help you out. Appreciate it. Have a nice day.